Welcome to Kim Talks Resilience, where we share stories of insight and inspiration in life, love, and business with resilient women from around the world. Speaking with authors, entrepreneurs, founders, and coaches to learn their strategies for a more resilient life so we can all build the life we love. I'm your host, Kim Hayden. Hello. Welcome back to Kim Talks. If this is your first time popping by the show, buckle up. Let's have some fun because we always have amazing women in here sharing their insight, in whatever space that they're living and working in each day. Our next guest I'm excited because this is, it is really much a global community we live in, and leaning into that global community allows us each to go back to our local communities and build better, stronger communities. So it's working together. And I think what I find really fascinating is no matter where you go, it's we have the same challenges, the same struggles. May have different contexts, but they're still there. There's that saying, no matter where you go, your problems can follow you. Well, no matter where you go, your successes can follow you. So I'm super excited here. Kimisha King has built a reputation through her volunteerism. She is an exceptional Barbadian, dedicating her life and resources to ensuring that women and youth are equipped with the strategies to reach their goals. She has been featured by over 500 media houses throughout the United States and in Nigeria. She is an author, a publisher, a podcaster, an international speaker, content creator, and a certified master trainer and a certified international life purpose coach with a visionary strategist and entrepreneur. So we're going to get the full meal deal today, guys. Her primary focus is helping women. And Kimisha is also the founder and CEO, and I love this, Queen's Mindset. Through her platform, women are taught how to redesign their lives with her framework and reimagine their reality. So let's get Kimisha in here. Uh, so so this is a Kim and Kimisha. So I love this. We match. We match.
Definitely. Good evening. Thank you so much, Kay, for that wonderful introduction. It's such a pleasure to be here today with you.
Oh, I'm excited. I have to say you had a very, very humble and polite request to come on the show. And
Yeah.
as soon as I read it, it's like, yeah, you're more than qualified to be here, more than qualified, and you're working it.
Yeah.
I have conversations often with people that are not in North America and their
hmm
struggle of working to connect into the North American market. And yet you are crushing it in getting the recognition in the media outlets and taking that very entrepreneurial mindset and bringing that, integrating that language and that approach so that you are globally, uh, present. I love that you're doing that.
Thank you.
Before we dive in and we solve all the world's problems on today's show, or maybe not, but before we dive in, I would love for you to share a little bit of who is Kimisha.
Definitely. So, Kimisha, she is 31 years of age. I know I'm so young. She's 31 years of age and she has a huge passion for women. I love to see women thriving and winning in any arena that they are in. It doesn't matter where you come from. I became extremely even more passionate about seeing women win because of multiple experiences that I had as I was growing up through my childhood. And you'll get to hear a bit more about that as we have a conversation. But I'm very passionate about helping women when I'm like the midwife. I come in to help women to give birth to what they're already carrying because I'm not doing any magic tricks. It's already there. I'm just helping you to identify what is there and helping you to actually carry it. So that's really who Kamisha is.
Oh, sorry about that. Literally, he just disappeared on my screen. Oh, that is who. So I love how you put that. A midwife giving birth to everything you're already carrying around. That is awesome. And that is the first time I've heard that out of 200 interviews. That is,
Wow.
that is, I'm going to visualize that a moment. Um, let's dive into
Mhm.
what you do. Okay. And then we're going to start unpacking this and how we serve.
Sure, definitely. So I have an organization. It's called Queen's Mindset. And Queen's Mindset is a women's empowerment organization where we help women to birth their visions and walk in their purpose. And we do that through various outlets where we have our workshops, we have our conferences, our seminars. We also have our books as well. We have our magazine. We just recently published our Mother's Day edition, and that's doing really, really well. And we have various programs that we do within the schools across Barbados as well. And then we're always connecting with various women worldwide. We have a program, it's called Battered, Bruised, Not Broken. And the highlight is resilience, which is why when I saw Kim's podcast, I said, this is it, because that's all we talk about, helping women to be resilient, owning who they are and walking in their power. And those are some of the things that we do at Queen's Mindset.
So Queen's mindset. So this is basically an ecosystem you're putting out there. So no matter how somebody ingests their information, auditory,
Mhm.
print, or video,
Yes.
your so that's here. I don't know. Now in Barbados, do you hear a lot around DEI, that term?
I'm not
So
quite
that's
familiar
huge.
with
That is like
it.
huge mandate here in North America now with all of our
Mhm.
businesses. Uh, diversity,
Mhm.
equity, and inclusion. So there's
Mhm.
DEI mandates, and that it's interesting when you look at programs like yours. You're actually taking that diversity and equity and inclusion approach to how you're delivering your content. So even if you're visually impaired or you have an auditory impairment, you still can actually engage in your.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You mentioned schools. How did you get your program into schools? Because that seems to me that would be a bit of a feat to
Oh,
talk to
okay.
me.
Sure, definitely. So after we published our first book, which is called Journey to 30, The Naked Truth, I Am You. And that's really about my life story, everything that I would have encountered up until the age of 30. I started a program, and with this program is called the Live Your Truth program. So we go into the high schools and we give each student, those who are in the higher level in the school, we give them a copy of the book, and then we do a program with them, and that program is tailored around peer pressure. We look at low self-esteem, lack of self-confidence, all of these things that the teenagers are being challenged with as they're growing up through their adolescence. And we have a session with them where we talk. We also do vision sessions with them, which is helping them to map their visions. And we like to call that one write the vision. And it's just like how you would create that vision board. We go through that process with them, and it has just been so rewarding. So far, we have been able to reach over 400 students, and the program started back in 2021. And it's just been amazing. It's been amazing how persons are super excited. I get students reaching out to me, especially when they read the book. They say, oh my gosh, I can connect with your story. Like, I saw that happen to my mother. That happened to me. I know what you're talking about. I can relate. And I'm really glad to hear that, because even though I am 31, I can still connect with a younger student. And that's amazing.
So we see inequalities globally for women,
Yes.
right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And then we see financial divisions globally that are pressing downward on more and more people. So, especially since the pandemic, what have you seen that has, maybe caused you to pivot a little since the pandemic? Have you seen shifts within kind of mental health or that whole taking action or self, self love, I guess. Like, have you seen that?
Definitely, definitely a lot of shifts. I've seen it's kind of a twofold. So at one point, I'm seeing that persons are really still really, really struggling with mental health, where they're keeping everything to themselves because they're embarrassed to say, I need help. I'm struggling with this or I'm struggling with that. And because of circumstances that they would have encountered through the pandemic, because it was rough. It's been rough for all of us, and some people tend to bury that and they don't know how to really communicate what they're feeling. So I've seen that side of things, and then I've seen another side where, because of what has occurred, people are now like, they're talking, they're venting, they're getting it out there, they're saying, this is too much, I need help. And those are this, I call that the healthy way in dealing with mental health. So you're seeing that twofold there with them coming out and actually saying. So what we have been able to do in our forums, we've been able to give women a listening ear. So when we actually published our second book, which is called 7 Days of Intimacy, A Guide to Rediscovering You, when that book came out, because it deals with self-love and it's talking about you being intimate with yourself, falling in love with yourself again, it caused women to be able to do a lot of introspection, and they recognize, hey, I have challenges with this. These are a whole list of insecurities that I have that I never thought that I had, and is causing me not to be able to soar and to do greater things. What we created during when this book was launched, we started a boot camp. And with our boot camp, it runs for 7 weeks, and we take persons through that process of the book. So you're taking yourself on a date each week, and then you are actually journaling that process of it all. So you can do this just by purchasing the book and do it on your own, or you can do it as a part of our boot camp, and then we'll train you throughout the process too as well. And then we also had a 7 day challenge as well, Kim. And with this 7 day challenge, oh my goodness, the ladies got to talking. They were sharing so many things that they were encountering and they were struggling with, and it was all because they took the time out to sit down and reflect and allow themselves to be vulnerable. And that's what was missing. And the pandemic was able to wake them up in such a way, is that, hey, I need to deal with this. Otherwise, I'm going to slip into a depression. Otherwise, I'm going to be in a place where I don't identify myself anymore. So that has really been helping them.
Shake them up out of being numb. I think a lot of people were numb before the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
and now they're feeling. Now they're awake. It may not be all for good, but at least they're all awake. Walk
Yeah.
me through, what's the funnest date? So you say a date. Take yourself on a date each week. Uh,
Yes.
what's the funnest ones? Give me a couple examples of what that looks like.
Okay. So I'll tell you, when I first started doing the days, because I'm a Christian. So when God said to me, because I'm waiting for my husband to come since 2016, I don't know if maybe he's listening. You can come along now. Just kidding.
Just putting
So
it out there.
so I've been waiting for him. And in my waiting season, I remember God said to me, go ahead and take yourself on 7 days. And I'm like, I've never done that before, because most times you can go get your nails done, go get your hair done. That's not really quite a date. So I had to be very intentional with it. So my first date I took myself to a restaurant, a fancy restaurant. I made sure that I made reservations, and when I arrived, I remember the hostess. She asked, she said, "Is it only you, or are you waiting for someone?" And I'm like, "No, it's just me." And she kept looking at me like, "Is she serious? Like, who's gonna?" And I'm dressed very fancy. I've got my makeup done, everything. And I remember sitting at that table, and I had a 3 course meal. And the waiter kept coming, and he kept asking, "Are you okay?" I was sipping my wine, I was eating my food, I was going through the full process of it all. And at first, it was weird. It really was, because I never did it before, and everyone was staring at me. Everyone was staring at me like, "Why is this girl sitting over there by herself? Is she okay?" People came and talked to me because they thought something was wrong. But what I recognized is that it forced me to enjoy my own company. All right, and be okay with sitting there alone and just enjoy my dinner. And that at first, and then the process still got even greater because at the end of the day, you are journaling about it. You're talking about your thoughts. How did you feel in that moment? What did you learn about yourself? So it caused me to really dig really deep. And then I recognized after, hey, don't keep this to yourself. Share this with other women because we all need to learn how to enjoy and love ourselves just the same. And that's really how it worked.
And you probably got to order exactly what you wanted to eat.
That's right.
No compromise. If I
Yeah.
want mushrooms, I'm going to have mushrooms. Yes, no,
Yes,
that's
that's right.
a constant argument in our house is to. But I have to say though, my husband's pretty good about going with the flow on the mushrooms. What's the next date you took? Out of curiosity.
I did another date where I actually went to it's like a hill here in Barbados. We call it Farley Hill. And when you go on the height of it all, you can actually stand at the top and it looks as though the clouds are actually touching the actual hill. Is really beautiful. So I went all the way up there. I remember sitting, I bought myself like a picnic lunch and I had some of everything. So I had my strawberries, I had my grapes, I had my wine and everything. And I sat there and I just journaled through the process, how I was feeling, what I was going through at the time. I took pictures with myself. I remember some people that worked there, they would pass by and they were looking at me again, like, because everyone thought it was weird. And I thought that was really interesting because it meant that no one was doing this. And I sat there, I just enjoyed my time there. I remember taking another date where I actually decided to do I did some water sports. So I went to the beach and it's sunny over here all year round. So we are always excited to have the
Go
beach.
ahead, Kamisha, rub it in, rub it in. It's sunny here, but it's snowing half the year. So uh, I'll send you snow. You send me
Yes.
sunshine.
Oh,
Okay,
okay. We can do that. We can trade
we'll
for a bit.
swap.
Yeah. So I did water sports and I remember again I got on when I got there there's like a line and you hold this line this line that is coming down and you have to actually jump and it's like 25 feet high from the water. So you
Oh,
kind of swing and then it takes you further out and then you drop into the water that's about almost 30 feet. I cannot swim. So for
oh,
me, I'm like, Kamisha, that's crazy. But I'm like, you know what? I want to live. And I remember the guy came, they made sure they put on my life jacket, they talked me through everything, they made sure that I understood what was happening. I was so scared. But I'm like, I can't tell everybody to jump, to take that step, and then I'm not doing it. So I did it. And immediately as I splashed and I hit that water, I started to panic because I could not feel the ground. Could
yep.
not. Because obviously it's almost 30 feet. I'm like, what, 5'4"? There's no possible way. I was not even close to it. So I started freaking out. And the guy was saying to me, Commissioner, don't panic. Just relax. Just relax. Because I already had the floater thing around me. They were already had me secure. He was just saying to just relax. But I was still so scared. But what I learned in the moment is that sometimes you feel panicky, but you gotta jump either way.
You
Because
gotta
if you
jump.
don't, yes, if you don't jump, you're never going to experience, you're never going to understand or learn about it. So that was a learning process for me. And then of course he came and get me because I still kept panicking. I was still panicking and he just came and got me and it came out. But that was also an interesting one for me too as well. I was able to go see the turtles. We have this thing here in Barbados where you can actually go and see, there's like a shipwreck and you can actually go under the glass bottom boat. You can see what happened there where that boat would have sank and everything, and they tell you all about the coral reefs. And it's a really lovely experience, but most people do it as a couple because it's really nice. It's really nice at night, at late evening. The sun is setting down. It's like it's a kind of like a romantic kind of thing. Some people do it later in the day as well. So or they do it as a group. And I was doing it on my own. So the captain kept asking, are you okay? Is there anything I can do for you? I recognize you're here by yourself. I know it's fine. And I took pictures, I took videos, I started taking videos and like you're just talking about the experience so that I can actually post to the channel so people can see what was happening. And that was also a really great experience for me too as well. There.
And what a great practice to also become a
Yeah.
tourist within your own area,
That's
right? So
right.
you're learning and
Yes.
everything. So you talk a lot around entrepreneurialism also, right?
Yes.
What do you think is some of the greatest challenges women face
Mm.
in growing a business?
Mm. I think some of the greatest challenges that women face is one, sometimes we try too hard to be seen instead of just being seen. So we start by trying to prove ourselves, like we want persons to accept us as we are. So we're trying to prove to them that this is us. But instead of doing that, we just need to just be us. Because your brand is going to speak for itself. You are going to speak for yourself. So just do that. Another thing that we also face is that there's always this competition, especially with women. So we tend to shy away from collaboration because we're afraid that
Yep.
if I collaborate with her and we're doing a similar thing, then she's gonna get, she's gonna move ahead and leave me behind. And we kind of think that one-sided way where we should actually be seeing it as if I collaborate with her, she wins, I win, because if one woman wins, all women win because we're all doing this together. And that's another challenge that I find that is happening. And I know this firsthand because when I started Queen's Mindset, and this was in 2017, I remember reaching out to another women's organization, and I said I want to collaborate with the lady, and she kind of tore my dream apart. She said she didn't think I was ready. The things that she said to me, I don't even want to repeat them because I felt really crushed, and I started questioning myself, asking myself, are you even ready or fit for this? And in 2018, I did nothing because I literally shut down everything because I kept doubting myself. I didn't think that I was ready. But only in 2019, then when God said, go ahead, do it again. And then I got started. And now we've been doing really, really well since 2019. And we've never stopped since then. And then the fun factor is that the same lady who crushed my dreams, her organization no longer exists. I thought that was amazing because we could have worked together to do so
Yep.
much. So that's one of the
Well,
other things.
and so I don't do Facebook. I don't do Facebook group. It's just not, that's, I know it's my generation, but it's just not my jam. So
Hmm.
nothing against Facebook at all.
Yeah.
I tend to be more so kind of in the LinkedIn world, and I'm in a pre-recorded space. I do everything pre-recorded, and this is, kind of where
Hmm.
I'm at. Um, and we've done live virtual events. And I've reached out to different organizations on Facebook. And I said, I'd love to be able to share this event. And they go, no.
Wow.
And you sit there and go, really?
Yeah.
Really? Right? And it's like this fear that your success will be their demise.
Yes.
And yeah, I do find that people in general tend to be more like that. And yet, when we look at it, everybody goes, you got one major corporation that has it has Nestle, it has Kentucky Fried Chicken, it has
Hmm.
Burger King. They did not start having a single one. Those are all joint ventures,
That's
right?
right.
And it
Hmm.
creates this larger group, and you just start collecting. And I don't know if it's more so um women are afraid that they'll like not be in control or what it is, but it's and I do find that a lot of times like they don't want another woman on the stage because there was only room for one person on this one woman on the stage, and if they give them, it's like just build a bigger stage. I mean, it makes
That's
sense to me,
right.
right? Makes sense to me. So,
Yeah.
talk to me a little bit about your story of resilience, a moment of resilience in your life that without that moment, we would not be having this conversation.
Okay. So I grew up in a very dysfunctional family, and I know most persons can relate to that because all families are dysfunctional at some point. But my family was really dysfunctional. I would remember every day, not every day, but most days, I would see or witness my mom and her siblings. They would have arguments, or maybe they will get into fights. Sometimes it may be physical, it might not be. But one day in particular, I remember I was sitting at the dining table with a friend that my mom was babysitting at the time, and we were coloring in our coloring book. And as we were coloring, I heard a commotion coming from the kitchen. And the house that we lived in was pretty small, it was not that big, so the kitchen was not far away. So when I got to the kitchen, I remember seeing my grandmother. She had took hot boiling water off the stove and tossed it at my mom, and then my mother, she took the hot food off the stove and tossed it back at her in reflexes. And immediately I started screaming and I wanted to get in the middle of them, but I'm only four. There's not much that I can do. I remember my uncle, he just stormed in. He didn't ask any questions. Immediately he started to argue with my mom. And we had to leave the house at that time, just kind of get us from children from around what was happening and all the crying and everything. And then every single time I would see these different things happening. My mom and her sister, they had a fight over breadcrumbs that as a child, I had dropped breadcrumbs on my aunt's bed, and it started a fight, a physical fight. And I see my father, he cheated on my mom for 13 years, and she stayed with him not because she wanted to per se, but she felt like she didn't want to break up the family unit. She wanted us to have that mother and father, as children, and she was trying to protect us, not recognizing, this thing was also hurting her. And I saw her had to use that level of resilience to say, even though it's 13 years, I'm going to pull the plug. And I was so young, I sat in front television every day, and I would just watch television. I use it to escape. So it became my reality. So every time I saw the actors and actresses with their fancy homes and doing family stuff, I would envision myself doing that with my family. But nobody told me that they were acting. I thought this was actually real. So in my mind, I'm like, if families are actually existing and they're doing this, then my family could do this. I saw people doing great things, going to school. No one in my family at the time was doing anything great. But then later on, my uncle, he started to do great things, and he started to go to college and university, and he did really well. And he then became my role model, as in, okay, it's possible. And I started to study hard. I started to be involved in almost everything and every area because I needed to get a way out. So I literally had to fight to come out. I shared a room with my sister for about 20 something years. And it's because we lived in a small home. I remember days we would have to get up, and my sister and I, we're 4 years apart, and we'll argue about who has to take out what we call here in Barbados a toxie. And a toxie is like a container that actually holds the urine. So because we didn't have a washroom inside the home, inside the house, we had a pit toilet, which is a outside bathroom. And with the outside bathroom, you don't get all the fancy stuff to flush and all that stuff. Everything's just a mess all around everything, and it smells really bad. So we would argue about who has to take it out because nobody wanted to do that. Because we were poor, our home at some point, some parts of our roof actually had leaks from the rain because of the holes that it had. So we would have to use a bucket to capture that water as it comes down. Some of the wood at the sides where you see the termites would eat it out. And I was very embarrassed of where I lived. I didn't want to invite my friends over. I didn't want anybody to know because I didn't want people to see what I was experiencing. And there were nights when we would come home and there's no electricity because nobody had enough money to pay the bill. So we'll have to light our lamp or we'll have a candle. And then when the water went off, we will ask our neighbor to borrow his hose so that we can take a shower in our backyard at night because you can't do it at day for anyone to see us. So having to come up like that, one of the key things that my parents did, as dysfunctional as they were, that they instilled in us that we were going to be in church. So my father being a 7 days Adventist, my mom Pentecost, I went to church on Saturday and Sunday. So I did two services. I've been a daddy's girl. I didn't mind because I just wanted to be where he was. I remember I was really upset with my mom because I felt like she kept pushing my dad away from us. But I didn't understand that, daddy was making some horrible mistakes. We have another sister, and our other sisters, because my dad cheated on my mom and they're 3 weeks apart. So my sister, which is from my mom, is born 1 month, and the other sisters were born just the other month directly after her. And those are all the things that I saw as a child my mom having to deal with. But she was so resilient. Never once did I see her complain to us about it. Never once did she fret about it. And she had to take another job, she took the other job. She'll work the extra job so she can gain the money so she can purchase the things that we needed for school. And she'll make sure we have the best education. Even though we couldn't eat the fanciest of foods, she would also always make sure that we had something in our stomachs every single night. And I saw her just working and working and working and fighting for us. And I told myself, I am going to make it, because one day she's not going to work anymore. I'm going to be able to provide for her and give her the life that she deserves, that she was not able to have when we were growing up as children. And that for me is what really got me to where I am. And that's why I became so passionate about helping women and helping them to overcome their adversities and always pushing resilience, because my mother has taught me how to be resilient, indirectly, without even recognizing that she was teaching me that. She really taught me what it meant to be resilient.
It's amazing what we can teach just through our actions.
Yeah.
That's a big one, and you'd be surprised how many people have far more in common with you, whether or not there's a Tatsi involved. Um, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you'd be surprised how many
Yeah.
people have so much in common. Um, we talked briefly about your books. I want to pull them back up here. So again, tell me what the reader can expect from your 7 dates of intimacy.
Okay. So, 7 Days of Intimacy is really a guide to self discovery, exactly what it says, because it takes you through a process of really re identifying who you are. Because sometimes we say that we know each other, that we know ourselves, but we really don't until we stop and spend some times with ourselves. It's going to put you in a place of vulnerability. You have to be vulnerable when you do this journal, because the questions that there is going to ask is so introspective. You really have to take time to reflect, and you have to be honest. It's going to force you to be honest about it, because when you become honest with yourself, where you're at now and what you're dealing with, it gets you to the next step. So every day you have a set of things that you're going to go through. And then when you go on your dates, you have a set of questions that you're going to answer. And then you have exercises that you're going to complete. And with these exercises, it causes you to really think. So we're talking about insecurities. What are the insecurities that you're dealing with? It's going to explain what that looks like for you. It's going to talk about loving yourself and how to love others. You can't truly love someone else if you don't know what it means to love you. So this book is really for that individual who is really ready to find real love. I mean, true love, because finding that real true love means that you're finding yourself. Because when you find yourself, automatically it's easy for anyone to find you. Now, our second book, which Journey to 30, The Naked Truth, I Am You. This book is my life story. You've heard of a part of it just now as I shared about my mom being so resilient. This book actually talks also about all the other things that I would have encountered as a child right up to the age of 30. It takes you through, is very chronologically set, where you can see what happened when I was a babe, what happened when I became a teenager, and what happened when I became an adult. And it takes you through all that process. So anyone between the ages of 15 to and over can actually read this book and capture everything from it, because it's such an easy read. I remember many people would say to me, "Oh my goodness, I read this in a night. I've never read a book in a night. I've never read it." Everybody was like excited about it because it's such an easy read and it's easy for you to read. We also have some quotes at the end of it. So at the end, you're going to see some quotes to also encourage and empower you as well.
So that's a big one for me is,
Hmm.
days that you can't think of one yourself because you're maybe feeling a little overwhelmed, go and borrow one from
Yes.
somebody else. Um,
Mhm.
so is there any other books that have been kind of your, like, that have inspired you?
Ah, yes, definitely. There is a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that's a business one. I love that one. When my mentor introduced me to that, it just, whew, it was really, at first I was like, huh, but when I read it, I said, okay, this makes sense. So if you're in entrepreneurship, I highly recommend you want to read this book so you understand how business works and at what side of the quadrant you are on. And then another book that became really great for me as a business owner is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Carnegie.
Yes, and that's amazing because when you start to understand personalities and how to deal with different things, it's really, really good. I'm thinking now there's another one that I like, but the name has just slipped my mind. Habits, right? That's the thing. That's what it's called.
Seven Habits of Highly Successful People or Atomic Habits?
Atomic Habits. That's the one.
Yes, by
Yes.
James Clear. That one is one of
Yes.
my all-time favorites, and it's actually a really easy listen. Does
Yes.
not take long. It's such a good book.
That's a good one.
Yeah, the things worth having are hard to work towards. The things that
Yes.
are hard on you are easy to have. So
Yes.
having that easy food or that easy job or any of those things, they
Yes.
don't feed you. So
Mm-hmm.
where can people find you, follow you, and how can they engage with you?
You can find me at Queen's Mindset on Instagram, on Facebook, and also on YouTube. You can also find us at our website at www.queensmindset.net. And once you go there, you'll find all the information that you need to know. If you're on LinkedIn and that's where you hang out, you can also find me there at Kimisha King. And you'll find information about our business as well as we'll post stuff there from time to time.
Okay, and that's Queen's Mindset is now on your form it said BB, and I didn't check that. Is there a
Yeah,
reason?
Queen's Mindset BB. I think that's just what Facebook gave me. I'm not sure if that has to do with Barbados or I'm not sure.
Ah, interesting. I'll have to check that
Yeah.
out. All right. All right.
Yeah.
And then Kimisha King. So she's, navigating both the queen and the king over here. So that's pretty awesome. That's pretty
Yeah.
awesome. What is a quote that inspires you?
Uh there's a quote that really inspires me and I think I kind of came up with it on my own, but then I recognize there's other people who have similar ones. But I love this one nonetheless, and that's never be afraid to ask for help because asking for help is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. And I love that quote because that quote for me, it helps, it really speaks resilience in itself, right? And that's what I really talk about most times. So yeah, that quote, that's me right there.
Yeah, they say there is no such thing as a stupid question, and asking for
Yes.
help is not a sign of weakness; it's a sign of strength. So, I love
Yes.
that. I love that. I'm so grateful that you took a moment and reached out because this has been absolutely a connection worthwhile. Quick question for you. On
Sure.
your website, is there any kind of like downloads, or do you have any kind of excerpts of your book or anything like that that people are on your Facebook group? Is there anywhere that they can maybe follow along if you're doing any kind of 7 day challenges, anything like that coming
Sure,
up?
definitely. So you can once you go to our website, you're able to click the link and go directly to see our magazine. If you want to download it, you can. You just have to click the link, sign up, and you have that copy there. You can also be. You're also able to download our. We have our speaker sheet, and so you can see what topics I speak on. You can learn more about what we do in our media kit too as well, and then you can also sign up for our upcoming event. If you're in Barbados and you're listening right now, we have an upcoming event in June 24th, and it's called the Ladies Buffet Brunch. It's a pajama edition, and we're dealing with the wounds that women carry. And when we say wounds, we're talking about rejection, trauma, unforgiveness, self sabotage, all those things that, we kind of bottle them all up together, and then they block us from being able to succeed in life. We're talking about that there. You can find that information on our website as well by just clicking the link.
And go grab that magazine, folks. Go grab that magazine because that will be really cool. Because, like I said, this is a global initiative. We've got to help each other lift up. And I love the fact that you said you are the midwife to birthing all that we're dragging around. So that is awesome. That is awesome. And in the words of one of my favorite movies, being from Kansas myself, Glenda the Good Witch has said, "You've always had the answers within you." And
Mm-hmm.
that is so very true. So get rid of the garbage. And once that's gone, you'll able to see the greatness
Yes.
every time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Kamisha, thank you so much. All the information will be in the show notes, folks. But do stick tight. Check out my really cool closing. You know what? Go and dance your way into a great day and be sure to give yourself some grace.
Thank you for joining us here today at Kim Talks Resilience. I'm your host, Kim Hayden, and I'd love to invite you to our resilient community at resilientgift.com. That's resilientgift.com, and we'll send you our magazine and tickets for upcoming events and all sorts of cool things we do here. So be sure to keep watching, and you know what? Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share, because we all know that sharing is caring.